Good evening, everyone. Ellen Sutter of ESP Presents and ESP Book Chats, where we bring page turners your way. Today, our guest is Dr. Um, Velma Bagby. I was going to say all her accolades, but they're up there. I see you down there, Dr. Velma. If you're ready, come on in the room. But just one moment. I'm going to put your book up here and just do a quick commercial. Allow you to do whatever you need to do on that end. It's not quite 7, but it'll be there. So thank you for coming out, and there we go. Waiting room. Dr. Velma with her cute self. Come on. Let's see what happened. Again, Ellen Sutter of ESP Presents and ESP Book Chat. Thank you guys for coming. Hey! Right on in the
Yes,
room.
ma'am.
Cyrus is out of town, right?
I think he's going out of town.
Okay,
I don't know if he's out yet.
that's okay. That's why we didn't mess up here. We usually have hot.
He was laughing about our moment we had last week.
We have to do it. We have to
Yes.
do it.
Yes.
Dr. Vama, this is day 2,
Hmm.
and we'll talk offline about the last one. But certainly,
Hi,
I am
Ryan.
enjoying this book and
Hmm.
having a wonderful time. Thank you all for being here. R.L. Smith and is it Janisa? I'm sorry. Thank you all for that. I'm just so terrible. I try to do better, but I know I'm
Hi,
not doing
Anissa.
that good. Yeah. So we're going to talk about her book, The Mom's Life in the Waiting Room.
Yeah,
And this is so awesome. You said I can ask you
of
anything. We're going to go a little deeper
course.
today and go
Of
deeper
course.
other places. So let's get started. Tell the folks who you are and why you penned this book.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Velma Bagby, and I have a long list of things that I do, and I'm not going to take up the time with that, but I am an author. 21 books, I believe now, and I believe 16 of them are bestsellers. So I'm very grateful for what I've been able to do. The most popular has been the Catch series, where I talk about dating and relationship issues and challenges of today, no matter what age you are. It's the same issues and challenges. And so I'm just grateful to be on this platform with Miss Ellen because today we get to talk about a piece I wrote recently for an anthology that we began talking about, posting a little bit, but we're really getting aggressive because it's coming out soon. And it's called The Women in the Waiting Room, Volume 2. And I decided rather than talk about my own experiences, I reflected on what my mother experienced as a woman who raised 7 children by herself. So, and then what she was able to accomplish despite the odds against her. So I'm excited to share that story.
Thank you so much, Dr. Velma. It was so much in there, and I was just, like I told you, was just in awe with your wonderful mom, her strength and everything. So I want to
Yes.
start out and ask you, looking inward from the waiting room,
Hmm.
what strengths were you shown about your mama, and what your mom give you in your tool bag, because to acquire in your tool bag.
Yes.
So again, looking inward, what did you have shown to you in your tool bag that mom taught you?
I think the biggest things that she taught me is not to accept what the world decides you should be or the place you should be in. Because they were back then in the 60s, there were all kinds of catchphrases that they placed a lot of single Black women in. They weren't supposed to own a home, they weren't supposed to own a car. And then during that time, raising 7 kids after my father left, she had to sign up for assistance. And back then, they came into your house to make sure you weren't buying anything with their money. So they were very intrusive and aware of anything you purchased with their money. So it's nothing like it is today. Back then, it was very embarrassing and kind of really attempted to tear away at your own value and worth when you had to rely on that kind of money. And my mother just made up her mind that is not the life she wanted to live. And so that's how the story begins.
Mhm.
So I
So
think
I'm looking at,
strength, Miss Ellen, resilience and strength and creativity to figure out a way to get out of the place that you've been forcibly placed in.
so true. And so when I think of that, I don't know if the folks here, but if you ever get a chance to look at Claudine, so I guess your mom was a real Claudine. So you guys would have to see that movie, Diane Carroll and Earl Jones. You would love it. And so that was a modern day one. That's the
And she had
look
how many
exactly.
children? Two.
She
Mom
did.
had seven. And
Hmm.
to walk into our house, you would assume that she didn't have any children because it was organized and well kept because all seven of us had assignments in the house. Mom was busy working and we had to make sure the house was maintained. So that's what we did.
That is awesome. Considering your mother and the commitment that raising her children to y'all, how did you pursue marriage? And in my words, I told you I was going deep with, your
Yes, of
mom had two
course.
divorces. Your mom had two divorces. So what did you have that pursued you into a successful marriage yourself without having, even though your mom got married, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying, but then
Yeah.
divorced, and here you
Yeah.
are, 50 plus, well, 50 years now. What was that in your pursuit of a successful marriage?
Well,
If you look at
51
that backdrop of
years,
your
we're
mom.
working on 51 years of marriage now. And what it taught us, both my husband and I came into our marriage with the same situation. His parents are married twice too. We watched the errors of their ways as well, but we weren't there. We weren't their age to determine what were the challenges and the problems. Except as I got older, I realized what my dad's challenge was because he was a singer. And back then, you thought the groupies who follow the singers today were the worst. No, they were worse back then. And
Mm,
so I just thought, later on, I thought to myself, my dad just chose the wrong thing to pursue, having the children that he had and the responsibilities that he had. I just thought that was the wrong thing for him to do. So I just think that's really the challenge. Now, to go back to the question you had of me, because my mind is on one of these chapters. And I don't want to go into detail without you leading me there.
yeah, you can go there because in the beginning, so we're going to just creep back just a little bit, and we've seen that your mother, had her focus on her children and took care of her children,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna jump a little bit because I want to add this what I heard you say. I think it was in our talk. I forgot where I got it from. That you said
Hmm.
you're going to make sure that you get off your mother's payroll.
Absolutely. I was in high school at the time. I met my husband in 10th grade, and that was after we were charged at our church to write a husband to be prayerless. And I'm saying this because some of these tools and tips we don't have anymore.
Mhm.
They don't help young women to begin focusing on how do you prepare for your life later. If that's what you choose to do, get married at some point. Most of what happened over time is they made everybody focus on getting their college degree. So there was no focus on building a home and preparing yourself for whatever that life would be for you. And what we have today, we have so many examples. We have people that are married, but it's not God's definition of a marriage. We have arrangements. We have people in situations that they decided to come up with their own process and ignore what God said. I mean, that's okay. But I'm just saying that in terms of the fact that we were given so much more. So I met my husband in 10th grade. I wasn't even interested in a boyfriend, nothing. It was a friend of mine who wanted to go and talk to my husband in our 10th grade English class. And I said, girl, if that's what you want to do, do it. That's just not my approach. If he wants to talk to me, he'll come and talk to me. But I wasn't expecting it because my goal, like I said, watching my mom work so hard. Because by the time I'm in high school, remember, I'm the third one from the youngest. So there's three of us still home. And
Mhm.
so my goal was that my mom didn't have to worry about me anymore. I just wanted to get a job. Had already made up in my mind I would go to school at night. We had a community college nearby. I would take my time, but my goal was to get into a place that would afford me a good future. And back then, it was state government,
Mhm.
federal government, any one of those we chose to go into. And I chose state government. And I'm so glad I did because
Wow.
there were so many opportunities for me there. So that was my goal, get off of my mom's payroll so she wouldn't have to worry about me.
Mm. When you say that, get off your mom's payroll, I don't know if people really think about that of today. because a
Yeah.
lot of parents are taking things. Can you tell us? I know you told us bits and pieces, but what does that look like today for a child that is living at home with his mom, and maybe they work, and maybe they just don't help mom at all, or maybe they just don't see um, how that helps for them to get off of the payroll, like you said.
Well, if it's not your goal, it should at least be the parent's goal to teach your child that there's responsibilities as an adult. My grandson is living with us now. He gets a little, he has some learning challenges, and but he's adult and doing well in school, going after his firefighters, going into the firefighters academy. So he's doing very well.
Hmm.
But he has been taught the principle of making sure that he can pay for things if he needs to pay for things. And so that's what we focus on. And I think a lot of parents don't emphasize that. And I think my pastor's been saying it a lot lately. You got adults at home, you better charge them rent.
Hmm.
That's the reality of life. You
Hmm.
can't go anywhere without having to pay for the things that you're asking them to provide you. And I think it's a principle that parents should enforce as well. It doesn't matter what it is. I remember my daughter's the same thing. If $50 a month is all they can, then $50 is what you're going to have to pay.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. And so we don't see that too much. And I think, well, when we were in school, well, I know you got me by some, but I'm just saying, I remember they had preparing people for life, like
Yeah,
home economics, cooking, and all
that's
this stuff.
right.
But you
That's
don't
right.
see that nowadays. And I'm like, why
Mhm.
would you take that
I
away, when those are the
thought the
tools they
same
need
thing.
outside? Those
I
are the tools
agree.
they need.
I agree.
So I'm like,
If they're not giving it, then the church needs to offer it because remember when we didn't have what we needed and what was out there for us, the church usually provided it for you. But just like the teacher who told us to write our husband to be prayerless. And so that's what's important. Life skills are not being offered. I knew how to balance a checkbook in high school because I had a class that taught me that.
mhm.
Thank you. That's my sister, my husband's sister, Carolyn,
Hey,
on there.
hello,
Nunley
nice to
Shepherd.
see you.
Thank
Hello.
you for joining us. And that's what we were taught. But again, you asked me a question about what made me commit to my marriage. My
Yes.
husband and I both experienced our parents getting divorced and remarrying. And so when we got together and made the decision to get married, I said, look at this face. And he said, look at my face. I said, because this face is not going anywhere. So we
Mm-hmm.
might as well buckle our seatbelts and try to work with it, work it out. Whatever comes our way, we're going to work it out together. Because God tells us to operate in unity and agreement, which means that anything that comes against us comes against a we, not I, not him,
Mm-hmm.
but us, we. And so we try to make decisions the same way. It's a we decision, not his decision, my decision. We have to agree on what we're going to do. And so in essence, our parents helped us to look to work towards something else because God describes it to us, but we just don't see it practicing much anymore. And again, going back to what you said, those life skills we got in school, that was key too.
Yeah.
Because I could handle the bills whenever he couldn't. Sometimes it switched. Sometimes he did it, sometimes I do it. And so he did it for a long time. I'm back to doing it now. So it's just about helping to bring whatever resources and skill sets you can bring to that relationship and that marriage that would help you to run your household as a unit. And that's what's important.
I'm seeing, I want to stay there a little bit and then I still have some more things for you.
Uh-huh.
When it comes to marriage, I was talking to someone at church, and sometimes you may not like each other. Sometimes, I know I'm a handful, and sometimes, different things. And I'm like, I don't know what they expect out of marriage. Maybe they expect, this is what I think, maybe they expect that you get married, then you're sitting on this big old harem couch being fanned. Um, Here's go cake for you every day. Not that that won't happen like that, but you shouldn't have that concept. What is, the general, you have 51 years almost concept of marriage that we're not getting this day and time that we think marriage is supposed to be.
I think one of the things you have to understand is you can't draw a line in the sand. Everybody learns differently, and everybody comes to the marriage relationship with different skill sets. You cannot hit a person over the head because they don't know something yet.
Mm-hmm.
What you
Hmm.
do is you teach a person how to treat you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're the catalyst to where you want to take the relationship. Sometimes he's the catalyst to where but you treat each other in the way that you would expect that person to respond and do the same. But what we get is we get people drawing a line in the sand. Well, if you don't want to do it, I ain't gonna do it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's crazy. God
Mm-hmm.
says operate in unity. And the last piece of that, and agreement.
Yeah.
Some things are not your charge to take on. You do have knees to bend. You do have a God that sees everything,
Yes. Yes.
hears everything. And I tell women all the time, that's your biggest threat right there. That's your weapon,
Mm-hmm.
is your prayer life, not your
Yes.
mouth. You're
Yes.
talking to God. I remember one thing I was challenged with, and I said, God, how in the world is my husband going to figure this out? I need your help, and started praying for him. Not this mouth telling him what he could, shoulda, coulda, woulda,
Mm-hmm.
but to use this mouth to talk to the one who knew
Yes.
everything and knew how to do everything, who will never fail. That's what we have to practice as women,
Mm-hmm.
is practice using this mouth, talking to God to intervene with things that we're not capable of doing,
Mm-hmm.
because we wanted to give the mouth all the time. Sometimes you need to shut this mouth, glue it shut, and just talk to God about it. And in many cases, like in the one situation I'm talking about, God came through. It wasn't for me to do that. It
Mm-hmm.
was for God to show him that. And I'm sure he's doing the same thing about me. Lord, show this woman.
So true.
It's
So
not a
true.
one-sided cord.
So true. We'd be like, Lord, get him. He say, what are you doing? Lord said, you look at yourself in
Help
the
her,
mirror.
Lord.
You know, you be like, get him, Lord. What you doing? You know,
That's
it's
why
gonna
it's
be like that.
important that
It's
God is present in the life of the two people. Because if God is present, I have to trust that God is in him and God will deal with what he has to deal with, not me, because I'm not God. I
mm-hmm.
still have areas I have to work on, and we have to show each other some grace and give them room to figure it out, because we each came through different experiences. And it took me a long time to realize some of the difficulties my husband had growing up. And so, therefore, it helped me to understand
Mm-hmm.
some of his ways once I recognized what he had to deal with.
So true, Dr. Velma, the role in a marriage.
Mhm.
And so I'm coming up on next month 33 years. And so I don't know if people is understanding the role. They may not like this, what we both come to know, that our role is, like you say, to pray, and we're his helpmate. Now, those are the two things. He didn't ask us to change the man. He didn't ask us
What did you
if
say, Miss Ellen?
I said
Help with the
help
H,
helpmate,
not a B with the
not a
boss.
B, not a
Not
B.
she's not the boss.
She's not.
She was sent to help.
Yes, to help, to help. Because like you said, keep in mind they never asked for us. God said it was not good
God
for him to be
made that
alone.
decision,
He
didn't he?
made that decision, and he made us, and he
Yeah.
know that we are to help. And I know this might sound hard, and it's like, look, I ain't helping him do that. He do his own thing. I'm doing this,
See?
and all that
See
stuff.
that? Hmm. We
We
just
have to.
want to rewrite the
We
script
want
when
to
God
rewrite
already
it.
had a purpose. He
He
already
had a
knew.
purpose
He
for
already
that.
had a purpose. He knew that we, alongside of him, he would accomplish a lot.
Yes.
Being
Yes.
there for him, being there with him, co-leading with him.
Mm-hmm.
He knew that Adam could not accomplish some of the things he had set out for Adam to do without Eve.
Yes.
But
Yes.
she ended up overstepping her boundaries, and that's a total example of what happens when women overstep.
Yeah.
You know,
So true.
she sold the whole world down to hell, stepping outside of what she was called to do. Now everybody
See,
on
I
their way
gotta
to
get
hell,
ready for
thanks
you,
to
Dr.
her.
Velma. I gotta get ready for you. I thought you said you wouldn't go starve no more. You was gonna be good last time.
You did this to me. But that's what she did. I mean,
It
if we want a
did.
good example of women stepping outside of their bounds, Eve was.
Mm-hmm.
And she messed
Shining.
up so royally, she messed it up for everybody.
Yes, she did. This is she probably say, look, this is so shiny. Look at this. Look at this. It's so sparkly. It's good. It's bright. Look at, we're just too much. And men are so simple. They're very simple. We complicated. But I want to go back to some of the things I was looking, and I wanted to ask when your father left,
Mhm.
and it's in the 50s. You guys are in the 50s, so you got that diaspora area. You got uh, different challenges, and you guys were living in California, right?
I didn't know I was poor. Everybody in the neighborhood had the same amount of similar experiences. I didn't know I was a latchkey kid. I mean, there were so many titles they attached to you. It's like, man, can I just be me? Oh, you're being raised by a single mom. Put that on your paperwork as you fill out your paperwork for high school. Remember, I told you about high
Yeah,
school, and my mother
yeah.
was shocked. Yeah,
Was there
it was
any
just so
resentment
much.
though? Was there any resentment to your father for leaving? What is it? Because my father, I don't know what it's like to be without a father. I was raised with my mom and dad in the house, so I am not connected. And I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it
Yeah,
feels like.
yeah,
Even the fact that my dad he passed in 2008, it doesn't feel like he's gone. He left so much love.
yeah.
So was there any resentment, any strong economic challenges since he left that you was angry about before?
I was a child. I didn't look at that perspective. All I knew was my little life. My parents didn't argue in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one argument, and that was right before my dad left. But that was all. They didn't argue in front of us. My mother didn't parade and did not speak ill of my father even after he left. She wanted to make sure we respected him because he had the title dad. And so that was it. What I do know is as I got older, my father got sick and I had to take care of my father. So I moved him in with us, with my husband supporting me. So he did get ill. And the one thing I had a conversation with my dad about was my mother. I said, now, I don't want to get into what happened to you and mom. That's not my job, none of my business. I was just a kid. What I do want to say is, you and I can talk about anything you choose to talk about, but there's one thing you cannot talk about with me. You cannot speak negatively of my mother because she was the one that didn't leave. So I'm
Ooh,
here to take care of you and do all that I can in this season of your life. But that's the one thing you're going to have to agree with me on. My dad looked at me and he said, he shook his head. He understood. I said, I will not hear you saying anything negatively about my mother.
wow. I got chills up and down. First thing I thought about is forgiveness. How do you reach out that way? And I know it took the Lord. I mean,
Yeah, I had
for some,
to forgive him. But
yeah,
he also had to agree that he wasn't coming in my house to talk about the one that stayed with me, didn't leave me, and made sure, hustled to make sure I had a life
but
after high, and
how did your
during high
Dr. Velma,
school.
how did your mom feel about that?
About
Him coming
me taking
with,
back, my
yeah,
mom
about
was
him coming.
already, she had already gone to be with the
Oh,
Lord.
okay.
Yes,
Okay.
she had already gone on. And I wanted to maintain that level of respect for her, and he was not going to do it. So he agreed. And I think my dad was with us for about 7 years before he went into a facility, maybe about 5 years, and then into a care facility for two more, something like
That
that.
is
To this, he was,
amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Because I'm
Hmm.
thinking, I don't know. Again, like I say, I'm out of touch with that when it comes to I see guys, young men, when their father's not around, and it seems to destroy them so much that even as an adult, they can't. They still waiting on their dad at the window, and it
Wow.
seems like to me, I don't know. I'm looking on the outside in. It seemed like to me that a girl without a father. I've heard of people saying that their father wasn't there. It seemed I can't really
I
say this,
wasn't
but it
without
just
a
seems like.
father figure.
Mm-hmm,
There were other people that came into my mother's brother, my uncle, who
mm-hmm,
recently passed away. He was there for me.
mm-hmm.
Even if, and when I was 10 years old, I was in his wedding at 10 years old. I have a picture of that. And he was there for me. He really poured into my life at a time I really needed it. So I spent a lot of time with his life when he got married, spent a lot of time with he and his wife, my aunt, early on before they began having children. So God has a way of sending you what you need. I didn't, get angry about my dad leaving or I was too young to really understand any of that. I didn't understand why. But my dad married three more times after my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then had two more families. And so that wasn't something I had to process at the time. I was busy just being a kid, trying to graduate out of sixth grade as I moved into junior high, completing my paperwork for high school. I didn't focus on any of that. But I did watch my mother decide that the life that social services had for women during that time was not going to be hers,
Mm-hmm.
and made that decision to go, and she approached the local grocery store owner. We knew the family that owned the store because that's the only grocery store in the area. We didn't have major chains back then, but we had large grocery stores, but they were owned by local families. And she approached them to ask if they would train her to be a checker. and she would do it for free. And he said, "No, we're not going to do that." He said, "If I'm going to bring you on, I'm going to pay you while you're being trained." And that's how my mother got the skill of grocery checking. And then when they closed, she went to a larger major chain, and that's where she retired from 25 years later. But she did that.
Mm-hmm.
She said, "I'm not going to accept this life for myself and my family." And so my older sister became the mother in the home
Mm-hmm.
while mom worked. And so that's how we made it. And that's how she was able to buy her first home in the 60s when Black women didn't own homes,
Yes.
not single ones.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
I want to reset, Dr. Velma, because there's some more wonderful nuggets in the book that we talk
Okay.
about. Some recess. Uh, Melvina, thank you for being here. Melvina, she's an author as well.
Oh,
The book talk about PTSD, so it's combat related PTSD.
mm-hmm.
Really great story. So thank you for being here, and all those that are in here. I really can't see those names too well. Neither can I pronounce them too well. But Dr. Velma, you were telling us in your book, and you talked about your mom. There's so many things that I saw that you talked about your beloved mom, even with her being there for you guys and being um, that strength. I like
Mm-hmm.
the way you said in the book, you said that I imagine my mom probably had some some mental things of what all she went through, but she didn't
Yeah.
show that part of you.
No,
So what made you
never.
think of that? What made you think of that? Just common everyday life, or would
Just
you view that
watching
being?
other people, like I said, I know single women who are raising two
Mhm,
kids and complaining like they have seven dogs, and just two kids. I said, well, let me tell you about a woman who had seven,
mhm,
and she didn't complain like that.
mhm,
What I do know that when I look back on my mom's life, Miss Ellen, I look back and see that despite how we had minimal resources at the time as she began to turn her life around and all of that, she always made Christmas spectacular. She always made a
mhm.
summer event spectacular. We didn't get brand new things and toys during the year. The only time we expected toys was Christmas, and boy, did we get them. And our little summer trip that she would take us to the theme park called Santa's Village. It was about an hour and a half away, and she would pack up lunches for us so she could afford to get us all into the park and then allow us all day to stay. And then halfway during the day, she would bring us out to the grass area. We sit down and eat our lunch that she packed for us, and then we were able to go back in and finish our day.
Wow.
I mean, and she did that on a minimal income, and yet those are the wonderful things we cherish. And then the other things we cherish is certain things she cooked and baked for Thanksgiving and Christmas. We didn't get it all year long, like the sugar daddy cake, and I know you want to know
Oh
the
yeah,
recipe.
yeah.
But anyway, that sugar daddy cake, it takes 5 hours to prepare the frosting, 4 hours to prepare the frosting. So we only got it around Thanksgiving and Christmas, but it was our favorite. And then my mom always decorated, and she had special bowls. She had a candy bowl we called it Christmas candy, but it was the ones with the riffles and pineapple,
Oh
and they had
yeah, yeah. That's
peppermint and all that.
mm-hmm.
Always had it once a year. And then she had a bowl that she would set up with the fruit and things like apples and oranges and Christmas candy. All of that was set up for us at
Mm,
Christmas time. So it made us feel like even though things were tight and slender during the year,
mhm.
we had some great moments. And so my mom layaway, she was the layaway queen, and she had that Christmas savings account at the bank the day after Christmas. She started her new one for next year.
Wow.
She was just so focused on that. And so that made us appreciate her even more because it was not only working to provide for us, but she made special moments for us as well.
Mm. So what were those times like? I came from a family of 11. It's 8 girls with me and 3 boys. And I can remember that dad had sat with us all separately away from him. And he told us a secret.
Hmm.
And so we thought it was just our secret. And when we got
Hmm.
together, all 11 of us, especially the girls, the guys, they said yes, but the girls, we all got together and we was like, I got a secret. And he was like, what? He said, Daddy told me he loved me.
Oh,
And I was like, he told me that too. He told me that he loved me. And we all shared the same story that we thought we had to
wow.
ourselves. And he
Wow.
loved us. I'm telling you, he loved us perfectly. He wasn't perfect, but he loved us perfectly. So I said that to say this, Dr. Velma. With you and your siblings, what do you remember those whisper moments that mom had with you? Sometimes maybe she had you all together, or maybe y'all did some one-on-one time. What was those times like?
Girl, I don't know of any whispers. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that my brothers had more freedom than the girls did. We could never leave the house after high school, after school, any version of school. The guys could go and go off with their friends, and of course, they got in trouble a little bit. But mom didn't allow the girls to go anywhere other than to school, church, and back home. And then all of us had to go to Sunday school. She didn't enforce church, but she enforced Sunday school, and we walked to the church and walked back home. And then she would give us a little money to go to the local movie theater. And so those were our treats. But she wanted to make sure we knew God because she couldn't afford to buy herself the things to go to church on Sunday. So she didn't go. She just
Mm-hmm.
made sure we had what we needed to go. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
that video, if you saw it, you saw that moment where we were excited to see my mother celebrate buying her outfits for church
Yeah.
because her kids were now grown and they're able to do it themselves. So yeah.
Anything you want to tell us about mom? This went pretty fast, Dr. Velma. I thought it was going, you know, but this went pretty fast and our time is not up. What do you want to tell us either from the book or what do you want to tell us about mom? And then when we come back
I
again,
think
we'll say,
that I just appreciated the strength and resilience of my mom. The one thing that I thought about was I just think about the man that came into her life. I always see him as the one that got away because he passed away.
yeah,
Um,
do tell us
and
about that. I was going to ask you
in
about
that
that.
story, yeah, I was sitting there, and when I look back at that moment, I often wonder what my mom felt at the moment because I know he asked her to marry her, and maybe she just said, "I don't want to do it again." But he really did appear to be the one that was the right one. And when she had to attend his funeral, I said, man, I wonder is my mom sitting there thinking I should have married him, you know, which we all believed he was the one for her.
Mm-hmm.
But he did pass away sooner than, what was expected. But that was the one thing I was happy that my mom had a man in her life that really treated her with respect and honor and treated us in the same way. Made sure if we needed anything, he was there for us as well. So that would be the one thing I wished she had. I know when I took
Mm-hmm.
on my dad, he was at the beginning stages of Alzheimer's, so he had begun to diminish at that point. He also had COPD, his health was deteriorating, so he needed help. And I remember going to get my dad from Fresno, which is where he was living, and this woman had decided to move him in with her. So there I was in Fresno. I had to take my brother with me to help me move him out of that woman's house because what she was setting up was she was setting him up to get his money.
Wow. I imagine that
Yeah,
would be a big fight.
yeah, yeah.
Dr. Velma, I was
So
not
anyway,
expecting that.
I know you weren't, but in case of my mother,
That's right.
I just
Wow.
yeah. So
So you said
regarding
oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no,
So
you go ahead.
you say you're the third child. Would you say you're number three out of the
I'm
entire
the
family of the
I'm
girls?
part I'm the bottom the three youngest. I'm with the group of the three youngest of that group. Now my mom had a total of eight children.
Mm-hmm.
One baby passed away when he was barely a year. So he passed away when my youngest sister was born. As a result, my mom was pregnant when that baby passed.
Mm,
So she actually had eight. And then I have had a brother who was murdered at 21. He was stabbed to death. So that was another. So my mom had those moments where she had to really grieve the loss of her children,
mm-hmm.
the baby, and then my brother at 21. And it was just really some challenges for her. So I know that when I watched and thought about all the things she's experienced, that's why I thought about, I wondered if my mom have those moments where she just broke down, and she did. She
Mm-hmm.
did it in quiet or by herself and alone in the room. I know she was a strong woman of faith, so her and God had to have talked about it, and she probably wept about it, but she did it quietly and in privacy.
Mm-hmm. When we say, we hear in our society, you know, a woman, strong black woman, as if we're not supposed to grieve, as if we're not supposed to
Yeah,
go anything. I believe that is so false because to me, it put us on a default of not taking care of self care, our
right.
mental, and all those things. What do you have to say about
I think
that?
it's important. I mean, you talked about PTSDs. There's all kinds of traumatic things that we all experience, and I just mentioned some of the ones my mom experienced. It's traumatic to go through two divorces, and you're there having to raise seven children because the baby had already passed, so she had to raise seven children. That's a traumatic experience. To think that you've had five kids with this man, and actually six kids with this man, and then he's going to leave you with all of them. I just think that's pretty sad.
Hmm.
And while you go build a music career that never took off. I mean, they had a few 45s,
Hmm.
but I
You're
don't know
going
if you
way
remember Joe
back in the
Simon.
45s.
I
You
remember,
going way
I know, I don't know if you remember Joe Simon, but Joe Simon was singing in the group with my dad, and he left them and went off on his own. And he was a Grammy Award winner. He's passed away now, but he was a Grammy Award winner going off on his own. So I think my dad was in pursuit of something that he probably should have just focused on his family at the
back.
time.
Hmm.
So that's some of the challenges. So when I look back on my mom, from the children that passed away to the relationships that did not work out, all of that. But the thing that I do see that she cherished the most is she rose to the occasion and did what she needed to do to establish a career for herself, bought herself a car, bought herself a home.
Mm.
Actually, she bought two cars. So she accomplished things in the 60s that wasn't seen much for women of her age or her ethnicity. So I was really proud to see that. And I thought if I was going to participate in this anthology, I said, wait a minute, let's talk about mothers who are in the waiting room, waiting for God to bring that breakthrough,
Yeah.
hoping for that door to open. I said, but she's in there with these children.
Hmm.
She's not in there by herself. And that's what prompted me to write the story about my mom.
Wow. You also made me remember one of the things you were doing, like you say, your mama, she was able to, as a black woman in that time, own her own home. You talked about doing some real estate, but mom got ill and you didn't finish.
Yeah.
Are you still thinking about going back, or that's just another life, or
No.
just?
I just think that at this stage in my life, it's good information to have.
Hmm.
So if I decide to invest a little bit, that may be something. I won't be investing in the current administration, but it may be something I would do at some point. But it's knowledge. What I do know is, and I'll just share with the lady, my mom met an African American realtor, and she walked my mom even before she began looking at houses and applying for any. She walked through what my mom needed to have in place. And one, she owned her own car. She said, nope, put that car in your brother's name. She said, you cannot have that if you want to get approved. And see if he will give you money to put in your bank account so you can hold on to that until everything gets approved. Then you can give him that money. The things that she made suggested to my mom, that's what drew me to the idea.
Hmm.
I said, because if she can do that for my mother, there may be people out there, there's simple things that they can do to help put them in a better position to qualify for a home. Who would have thought of those things? You would think to just go and apply, but no, she said, no, get that car out of your name, have your brother give you some money, keep it in the bank until everything clears. He has to agree to that. And those are simple tips that helped her to get approved.
Mm. I'm looking at that. I'm like, wow, time has really
Yeah.
changed, and the things we do and the stuff that we do as a
Yeah.
people, but then being joining, like you said, with you and your husband. I do want to mention this, Dr. Velma, when you talked about going way back, when I remember in some talks ago, probably when we talked about the catch, but it just came to my mind
Uh-huh.
that you were saying, even in the process of your marriage, early marriage, you said your husband lost his job, and your mom would say, well, maybe just don't get married. Can you tell us about that? And then, going forward, some people may think that the beginning should be perfect. That's the way I'm gonna say it.
Girl, Miss Ellen, these people that's looking at income of a person, just just a wash. Income of the person. if he's sweating out there putting and paving the roads, but he's coming home treating you like a queen, who cares?
Hmm.
Because what happens in when we got ready to get married, my husband was laid off 2 weeks before the wedding. And that was what my mom asked me. She said, "Are you sure you want to go on with this wedding?" I said, "Yeah, getting laid off wasn't his plan. We just have to move on with what we have." But what I learned from the experience was how dedicated my husband was. He was hustling, getting out there trying to find another job. And it wasn't long after we married that he did. He found another job. And he was that way the entire marriage. During the time he worked, he was always looking and trying to hustle to do the best he could, to get the best opportunities he could. And that's why he was able to retire as a manager from AC Transit. He started as a mechanic, but he worked
Mm.
his way up. So it's important for us to see. And I talk about stop worrying about who's making what. When we bring our money home, it goes into one pot. It's our
Mhm.
pot. It's not your
Mhm.
pot, his
Mhm.
pot. It's
Mhm.
our pot. Doesn't matter what amount you contributed. It's all the household's pot. And so that's something crazy that we practice out there in the world. And I talk about money being a condition. You place a condition on what you want that man to earn before you even consider marrying him. You don't know if what he's expected to earn later, what God has in store for him, won't happen without you being present. So you have
Mm.
to understand
Mhm.
you might be the one that helps to get him there. But at the same time, conditions change. I've seen couples where you thought you were all that in a bag of chips and then you get ill. Where's your income?
Right.
Conditions change all the time. You can't control that. So I say stop focusing on conditions because many times that flip. I made more money than my husband because I was already off into my career with state government. But he surpassed me in less than 5 years and he left me in his dust because where he was working paid some good
Mhm.
salaries. And so what I'm saying is that conditions change. What if that was a condition of mine? I would not
Mhm.
have married my husband, one, because he had lost his job. Then I had to wait for him, then I would have had to wait for him to get to his salary at the place where mine was before I would consider it.
Yeah.
Can you see how silly
Yes.
that sounds?
Yes.
Really silly. What do you have to build on? What do you have to look back on? That journey for us is a journey that I really value because I look at where we were and where God has blessed us to be now. And it was just a humble beginning. And
Mm.
it took patience and we just had to wait. But it came.
But you, Dr. Bella, you have so much, and even being a relationship dating coach and everything. And so I'm pretty sure you don't know what I'm going to say, but I'm pretty sure this is in your wheelhouse. And I think that when it comes to, because I'm married myself and you are, when it comes to marriage,
Hmm.
and I don't think people look at the whole thing.
No,
You know, I don't
they
think they
don't.
look at the whole thing as like you're dating, you're together, but we don't think ahead of the whole thing of doing life together. What are some
Yes,
of those things or some of those tools that you can give those who's looking on about looking at the whole picture, of putting it all
absolutely.
together? Mm-hmm.
Well, some of the things I said already, stop looking at conditions. Don't go crazy with that kind of stuff because it doesn't matter. And conditions change over time. Your health can flip while you worried about making more than him. And then if you get sick or something and that goes away, then it's on him. Stop worrying about those kind of things. And then also looking at what they look like. He has to look like this. Well, you're not going to look like you look right now all the time either. I am not that 20-year-old girl, and my size and my look is not that anymore. So if he had a condition for me and said, you got to stay and look like this, whatever way you look on the day we march down the aisle, you have to keep that look. That's crazy stuff. You're
Yes.
never going to maintain that. And so you have to remember that whatever you see in that moment, it's going to change. And
Mm-hmm.
you have to be really willing to make adjustments. But if you're stuck on those conditions, if I had to be stuck on that beautiful afro my husband had that I used to braid at night, if I was stuck on that, that's all gone.
Mm-hmm.
What if I said, You got to get that afro back? Those are things we just focus on, silly things. So we have to make sure you're focusing on the qualities that matter.
Mm-hmm.
What is he bringing to the table? what are you bringing to the table? Make sure that whatever list you create for him, that you're asking God to send you, because God has a list too, that you can make adjustments because, and that you can meet the list too. Don't have a list that of qualities you don't even meet.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're measuring up because he's looking for someone too. Make
Mm,
sure you're the right person and you're ready. So do the work.
mm. Let's go back to your mom. You mentioned a little bit ago, but I'm going to resetting for those that are in the room. Thank you guys for being here. I guess it's Dr. Velma Bagby. She has a plethora of backdrops to who she is and facets to who she is. But I want to, you mentioned your mom said the guys were kind of carefree, but the women, your sisters, the way she saw things different, her plans. Do you thinking now, looking back then when you were younger, thinking about now, what did you think that mom, why did she have that stance with her girls, and what plans you think she wanted to foresee as you grew up as young ladies?
Well, she definitely wanted us to be successful. She definitely wanted us to be able to provide a life for ourselves. So she did see that. She was really surprised when my husband began to visit me because I was still at home while I was working. I began working. And remember, I said getting off of my mom payroll.
Yes,
I
yes.
bought my mom a washer and dryer. She didn't have one. So that was my first pennies credit account. So one of my first credit card accounts was J.C. Penney's. I said, let me find something that my mom can use and bought her a washer and dryer. And so I wanted to contribute to the household. I paid rent and every time I got paid, I paid my mom some rent, but I also treated her to things I thought she could benefit from. So when he started visiting, I wasn't sure how my mom would feel about him because I consider my mom to be a little tough cookie. But my husband handled it, came with gifts every time he visited me, he came with gifts for her. And
Wow.
so yes, he won her heart. And he came back. I didn't know this, but he did go back with his brother. Um, and he went back with Butchie and met with my mom to get her permission to marry me. So he did do everything correctly.
And that's something you see that a man comes to a man
Yep.
and did you, I'm nosy. Did he tell you how that went and what he said?
I didn't. I can tell by the fact that he took his brother with him that he wasn't going to do it by himself. But it went well. My mother was really impressed
Oh my
because
goodness.
absolutely she was the head of our home, and she was absolutely the one we used to call my mom Big Cheese.
Mm,
Don't play with Big Cheese. But yeah, when
that's
I
a
found
great
out later, it was
respect.
after we were married, and he told me he did go and talk to my mom with his brother Butch and talk to her and ask her to marry her permission to marry me.
That is so awesome.
Hmm.
Now
It's very respectful.
it
You want to
is.
honor, show some honor to a person's parent. It doesn't matter who that person may be in
Mhm.
their life, but just showing that kind of honor speaks a lot about that person's
Yeah,
character.
that's what my husband did. I'm like, I'm in my 30s, and I'm
Hmm.
like, what? And I had been married before, but he
That's a
wasn't
matter.
around me. But he asked him in for my hand in marriage,
Yeah.
and he told my husband told me that my dad say take good care of her, and he has been
Hmm.
doing that to this day.
Yep. Yep.
Hmm. That
It
is
was my
beautiful.
mom. If anybody that should have marched me down the aisle, it should have been her. But my dad did march me down the aisle. He did do that. But really, my mother deserved the credit.
Wow, such a strong woman. Anything else you can tell us? Because definitely when we come back the next time, we'll have definitely sure more that I see to dig into that
You
because
will always have the right question, Ellen. I have no doubt. So I'm not worried.
good.
I am not worried.
That is just the respect. Him coming
Hmm.
to ask for the marriage and just you say you call mom Big Cheese.
Yep. Everybody did
Oh,
because they
that's
knew not to
great
play with her.
respect in the
Yes.
neighborhood. Great respect. Was
Hmm.
she tall? Give us a description. Is she
I
tall?
think my
Short?
mom was about 5'9". She was taller
That's
than
tall for
me.
me. I'm 5'2".
Yeah. She's about 5'9". Yeah. But my
Wow.
grandfather, I think, is in the six. I think he's over six. Her father was
Mhm.
over six. But
What
yeah,
about your grandmother, your mother's mother? Did she get, some things from her mother? Or had you met your?
The one thing that I do recall, definitely the cooking ability, but my mom was a seamstress. She could sew by sight. If she saw something, she wanted to go back home and design for herself. She could. She designed her own drapes in the house. She was all, and she actually sewed all of my bridesmaids' dresses, all of the flower girls' dresses, the boutonnieres, and the bow ties and the vests for the candle holders. I had eight little boys and eight little girls. They were the candle holders. They all their outfits my mom made. So it was really beautiful. Even
Mhm.
the dresses she designed were gorgeous.
Mhm.
That's who she was. She to me she was back then. She would have been called, if she was today doing all the things she was doing back then, she would have been called an event planner. She was good at putting things together. She really had an eye for design.
Okay, I know you can't think for mom, but I'm
Hmm.
thinking, how if she saw this today that is 51 years, I'm not saying she didn't think it would make it. What do you think mama felt at that moment, being also that she came from what she came from? And I know she wished you well. You know what I'm saying? What did you think it?
My wedding was the first big wedding that my mom did. My youngest sister was the second, and she designed a lot of her attire in her wedding as well. I think what she would say was that she made the right decision and giving my husband permission, that he did what he was supposed to do. I think that's what she would see, and that's what she would say.
Mm, love it. Love
Hmm.
it. You
Hmm.
always have the good stuff for us.
Ah,
Always.
I know to
Always.
be prepared for you, Miss Ellen.
Thank you, Dr.
Now,
Velma.
that's not to say we were all perfect. So let me just
Yes,
make sure
yes.
you stop spreading the rumors. Dalma has a no, it wasn't.
That's what we have to say. Look, all those years,
Hmm.
they say I'm sure it wasn't cake every day on the table, but we know it was more meaningful then. And I was talking to my daughter. We were talking about how back then, when you had women, this is how we be talking. Me and my daughter, she'll be 36 this year, but we were talking about how back in the day, how the women where they took stuff because they couldn't leave their kids. They didn't have, really couldn't have bank accounts, really couldn't, as a woman, none of these things
Wow.
you could really have, in the 50s, way back there. And so we were comparing that today. What would make them stay, and what would make them stay is their family, and they had nowhere to go. And so we were talking about those things like that, and how moving forward now today, they can leave and they can choose this society, choose not to. And so I'm looking at to me, the even though they took a lot of stuff to go forward with their marriage and everything. And I was telling her about, maybe you saw this before, Dr. Velma. I was telling her about how in our neighborhood, I came from the suburbs in the projects area, very poor. My family was very, very poor. um, and so I can remember that we would borrow things and we get together. And I can remember if someone had uh, was about to break up or something, I can remember the community getting food together, and we all
Hmm.
outside and they dancing and they got back together. And so I was
Hmm.
telling her how, the village cared and the community cared.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about all those things. And from that now, I don't know. I'm like, is it possible that we can get those kind of villages back? I know through prayer and those things. And I think, like you said, the Titus women and the different things
Hmm.
that are we just not, I know that sometimes they don't want to hear what we have to say. And then sometimes we're not where we at, like, where are the grandmothers? They're at the club. And I seen something where, I'm not saying all, where they say that, how am I to respect her? And she's where I am, in that process of even being a mother, even being a wife. It
Hmm.
looks so
Hmm.
different today. How can we start that conversation, even in that single family? We have so many communities, but we have
Yeah.
a broken community, and I can't say nobody wants to speak up. How do we have that
Well,
conversation?
this is what I have to say. I really fought the church. There's so many churches out there that has the ability. And when I was growing up, that was where we were trained. That was where we were taught the things we needed to know if there was something happening in the political world, out in the community, changes that were coming about. We got all the information at the church. We just don't have that foundation anymore. Just like I said, it was the teacher at church who talked to me about creating a husband to be prayerless. We have a lot of churches that encourage people to get married, but they don't take the time to teach them about anything. And because it has fallen by the wayside, relying on the school system is not going to help you
Mm-hmm.
either. Somebody has suggested to me, why don't you get involved with teaching? They call it sex education. I say, no, no, because what they're teaching, I don't agree with
Right.
teaching at such a young age. They're not teaching how to have a relationship, how to build a relationship, any of that. And I said, the focus is too wrong. I said, although it might be a door, it's not something I would want to jump into.
Right.
So I think if the churches went back to building the foundational things that we used to get from the church and make sure that that's back, and I'm not saying all the churches don't,
Right.
some of them don't. We need to bring that back and really prepare people for what they hope to have later on in life. I was thinking about, Miss Ellen, the other day, and I think I said it on Cyrus's show, The Words I Choose to Live By. This daycare was walking down the street as we were coming up the street. My daughter's dog, a little Frenchie, he likes hanging out the back door, just looking, standing up, looking, the ears perked up. And the kids said, "Oh, hi, doggy." So I slowed down and stopped while they were walking past. It was about 20 or 25 kids and two women walking with them as they were enjoying the day. They were each in pairs holding hands. "Hey, doggy." I said, "Yeah, his name is Nike. Say hi, Nike. Say hi to the kids." And they were just loving it. And
Mm-hmm.
as they passed, I told my husband, I said, "I love to see kids at that stage." I
Yes.
said, because that's the stage where they have hope,
Mm-hmm.
they have joy, they have love, they love greeting you. They're not taught that you're not the person they should talk to. They're not taught, oh, not the right color, any of that. They just enjoy life.
Yeah.
And what happens over time is we become broken based on what society and other people pour into us and say our perspective should be. And so I'm saying, Miss Ellen, I would love to get that back. I would love for us to go back and really prepare our young people. I mean, when I talk about high school dating versus the godly dating strategy, dating for marriage, high school dating is what we've been taught. It's only just a couple of 100 years old, what we
Mm-hmm.
practice as what we call dating, because dating, that word is not in scripture. It was always about you discovering your husband or your
Mm-hmm.
wife. That's what I call the strategy dating for marriage. But we still practice high school dating. Now we have high schoolers who are dating, but not what we call dating.
Mm-hmm.
We used to call that those social events,
Exactly.
going out to be social. Now they're acting like they're love interests, and that should never
Mm-hmm.
happen. So now you're giving away things that to a person that doesn't deserve it, and you're giving away things that to people that's not authorized. God said the only one that's authorized for you to give yourself to is your husband.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have counterfeits taking advantage of all these young women because they practice high school dating. And then we have adults doing the same thing. That whole high school dating practice, we think that's the way to find our husband or our wife,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not. You have to really examine the heart of that person.
So true. What pains me, like I say, I'm going on 33 years, and what pains me is there's no difference. When you look at a marriage
Right.
and you look at a single, it's like, okay, you get married to be single, and you're single wanting to be married. And so then the things that I see, I'm like,
And is that a marriage? That's a different definition because
yeah.
I know my bishop said you got these people who claim to have a marriage, but all they have is um, what you call cohabitation, just living in the house together. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Not a
Mm-hmm.
marriage.
We don't know what that look like.
Yeah,
Dr. Velma, our time will fly in our eyes, and
you
it's
always do it. It's not just my fault, it's yours too. We just enjoy talking.
I tell you, I enjoy this. Dr. Thelma, we're going to come back with more of your mom's book. We could just just beautiful if they get a chance to see it. And you say it's not out yet, so I got privileged
It's
to get
coming out
to get it.
shortly.
It's
So
coming out
we're
early.
starting to promote more of the anthology, so it's coming out shortly.
Hmm.
So just
Now,
connect.
the book cover, is that your mom's actual picture or just the picture of a woman?
No, that's not her actual picture. It's
Okay,
just a picture of a woman.
that's
But
what I was
yeah,
thinking.
that will
Picture.
be the cover in my particular segment in the anthology. Each of the writers have a cover inside the anthology
Hmm.
for their particular stories.
And you said that come out when? Not.
It's coming out shortly,
Okay.
is what I understand. So it might be the next
Hmm.
month.
Hmm. That's some good stuff. That is some good
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Dr. Velma, tell us where they can reach you and what's next.
I am wrapping up the first season of Finding Your Voice. I think I have two more guests. I'll be going through the end of March, and that will be the end of this first season.
Wow.
And I will begin inviting guests to come on board for me to prepare for season two, which will come out in the fall. But in the meantime, I go back to Dr. Velma Talks, Godly Dating, Marriage and Relationships. So
Uh,
that's what I'm going to be going back to. So that will be season two of that. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm working on my next catch book.
I'm nosy. Just keep talking.
Queenie was the only one that knew about it, but now you know. And this time I got a little perturbed about a story I heard of a young girl who, going back to teenagers, I don't know why people push their young people into this level of relationships.
Hmm.
They're ill-equipped and not prepared. And this app that's called Life 360. Parents are using it to keep track of their children because it'll tell you everywhere that child is. So they can't come home and lie and say, did you go blah, blah? No, I didn't go. But the app is telling you. Where their dates are now using it to track them too. For those who are manipulators and controllers, those who are narcissistic are doing that to make sure that girl gives them an account of what her day was like and where did she go and not lie to him because now he's tracking her.
Oh, wow.
That,
I hadn't even heard
that
of this,
right,
Dr. Velma. I hadn't heard.
girl,
Oh.
Miss Ellen. I said, okay, God, I hear you. It's time for another book,
So this will be
and
like a novel? This will be like a novel because I
this
consider
will
those to be
be yes, this will be book number 6.
with characters in novels.
I'm going to deal with fish characters. Wait until you find out what kind of fish I'm going to be using. Yep.
Okay, I'm too nosy, Dr. Velma. I'm too nosy. And I love it. I love it. I love the Catch series. If you guys get a hold to that it is really good. I hope.
I thought I was going to
Mm,
wrap up with a workbook and a closing chapter and all of that. I'm working on my own husband and our story. I wrote the for an anthology and then released an ebook about our lives, my 70s love story, but I'm working on my 70s love story 50 years later. So I'm working on that
gonna be
to
awesome.
give people a glimpse of what our life was like. So hopefully people can learn from some of the experiences we had. So that is coming.
Wow, it's so much. You got a lot of books out there. I have, I don't know if I told you, but I have quite a few that I haven't read
Hmm.
of your books. I just have them on my Kindle, and I'll
Hmm.
get to it. I'm not
I
a book hoarder,
know.
but I
I
do
know.
read them.
That's
But
okay.
I didn't realize how many books that I had of yours, or how many books. I was like, when did she do that? Then when I look at that one, here come another book. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
But thank you for being here, Dr.
I
Velma. We certainly
appreciate
always
you.
enjoy our time. I appreciate you as well. And you're going to be coming up somewhere on the 26th of this month, and I look forward to that. Show you
Yeah, there
somebody
was an
else.
interview that I was invited on a podcast that nobody taught me how to be a wife. And the young lady invited me on and I agreed to join her. And so it's airing on the 26th.
On the 26th,
Mm-hmm.
like a pre-recording or live.
Pre-recorded.
Okay, we
Hmm.
can't wait to see that on the 26th. It's going to be on all platforms.
I'm sure it's gonna prompt more questions from you.
Awesome. I am looking forward to that. I'm looking
Thank you,
forward to
thank you,
that.
thank
You
you.
have an amazing night. Tell the
Thanks.
wonderful husband hello.
I will.
And we thank you so much for all you contributed in our universe. We thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
that. Especially,
Miss Ellen.
you're welcome, especially as, with your audience,
Hmm.
Christian people. And so, like you said, if some people may not be your audience. And so I
Hmm.
really like the way you show us, even in your book, that we don't talk about dating. But wasn't
No,
we didn't talk about dating in church. The only thing is it's better to marry than to burn. And then you done married this person and it was all
no,
just sexual and you don't
no
really
tools,
talk about
nothing. Yeah,
it. Yeah,
I agree.
yeah. So I'm looking forward to what God give you. Those should be on our shelf. And those the catch books should be on our shelves.
Thank
But
you.
again, thank you, Dr. Velma. You never know in what places you will be that God has for you to make a difference in our
Yeah,
world.
it could be Newport,
Mm-hmm.
Virginia.
Mm-hmm. Newport News, Virginia. I look forward to that. I
Well,
go there.
Newport News, Virginia. Somebody was telling me about a book store out there.
Yes,
I said,
yes,
"Oh, really?
yes. We have a wonderful bookstore out there.
Okay, Newport News. All
Hmm.
right,
We look forward.
sounds
We'll talk
good.
about that, and
Yep.
I'll give you their information, and they'll let you know how it goes. You'll be
Okay,
surprised. That's all
I
I can
won't
say.
be. I'm not with you. I won't be. Thank you so
You're
much. I
welcome.
appreciate you, Ellen.
You're welcome. Have an amazing
You
night.
take care. You
All
too.
right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you guys for being here. Dr. Velma Bagby, that was our guest today. And stay tuned on the 20th, guys. This is a children's book, and it is titled A Little Boy in a Dragon, and it's by William D. McCrary. He's going to be back on. We're going to talk day 3. Day 1, we talked about the birth of his child. Day 2, we talked about what it's like in common places. So day 3, we're going to talk about family. So stay tuned for that on the 20th. And also, we do have some shows coming up, guys, whether you watch it now still or put this in replay. So what are we doing now is we are looking for, let's see, 5, 10, 15, 20 authors who has just dropped a new book release. And this is, reserve your seat, is $35. It'll be a 15-minute talk, impromptu. You have to register. Uh, Email me your synopsis. That way I can do a impromptu of your synopsis. And that's a way to get your book seen, your new release seen on our platform. So you can email me at mrssuds@yahoo.com, and we care about your books and we want them books seen to our readers and all of the platforms. And your book will be out there and it will stay on our page where other readers can see it. So again, we're going to have a show. It's going to be April 3rd, 10th, 17th, and the 29th. And we want I guess 20 authors, and act now. You do have to reserve your spot, and it's a 15-minute show. Send me your synopsis. That way I can read your synopsis and see what's going on. And we are definitely speaking from your synopsis. We haven't read your book yet at all, and we'll go from there. You guys have an amazing night. Thank you guys for being here. And keep it locked on ESP Presents, where we bring page turners your way. And you guys have an amazing night. Thank you.